Okay, in this video, we're going to be making a 1-gallon batch of strawberry rhubarb wine. Haven't done it before, so it should turn out to be something interesting, I hope. Hi, I'm Charles and welcome to DIY Fermentation, your site for doing fermentation on a shoestring budget. Also, would like to welcome a special new member, Bill Clark, for joining the membership club. Appreciate that very much. Now then, on with the show. To make our strawberry rhubarb wine, we're going to be using the following ingredients. I've got about 3 pounds of rhubarb. I have 2.5 pounds of fresh strawberries. We'll be using the juice of half a lemon. 1 black tea bag. We'll need about a cup of chopped raisins. We'll be using a Star Premiere Classique wine yeast. We need about 1 gallon of purified water. We'll need a fermenter, preferably something with a wide mouth opening. We'll need something to do secondary fermentation in, and that will require an airlock with bung. It would be helpful if we had a hydrometer and testing tube so we can determine how much alcohol we're producing, or our ABV. And before I completely forget, we're going to need 3 pounds of sugar. And your sanitizer of choice, whether it be One Step or Star San. We want to make sure all of our equipment has been properly cleaned and sanitized before we start this winemaking operation. And this is what I'm going to be using to make this wine. Now, I've taken the opportunity to go ahead and wash this rhubarb. And what I want to do now is that I want to go ahead and chop these up into small bite-sized chunks and put them into a freezer storage bag, where then I'm going to put them in the freezer. I had to put away the smaller chef knife and break out the big one for this job. Sharper, bigger, and definitely easier to work with. All right, and into the bag it goes. Go ahead and seal it up. And into the freezer it goes. Freezing it and then thawing it will break up the cell wall. Helps to extract the juice a bit easier. I've thawed out our rhubarb and I've sanitized a nice big pan. And I've got 2 pounds or 4 cups or 1 liter of sugar that we're going to be using to macerate our rhubarb. So to get that process started, I guess we can do this in layers. Let's pour out some of our rhubarb. Sprinkle liberally with sugar. Pour in some more. A little more sugar. And now you can just dump in the rest, along with the rest of the sugar. Yeah. Now let's go ahead and cover this up. Plastic wrap or aluminum foil, whatever you got. And we just go ahead and let the maceration process do its thing. I think I'm going to take this and put this in the refrigerator because it might take a day or two before we move on to the next step. Let's give these strawberries a real good rinse. And let those drain off a bit. While the rhubarb is finishing up in the maceration process, let's go ahead and get our strawberries ready. And basically, we just want to remove the foliage and just do a rough chop into quarters, something like that. That's all you need to do. Let's go ahead and get these into straining bags. Let's go ahead and rough chop our cup of raisins. And we can go ahead and get those into the straining bag as well. It's always a sticky affair with raisins. Let's grab a straining bag. And let's go ahead and get those in there. Now we can, get them all. I paid for them. I want to make good use of them. All right, go ahead and tie off our bags. I've let our rhubarb macerate for the past 2 days. And let's see what we got after 2 days of letting this just sit around in syrup. All right. I mean, there's juice in there. But what I want to do now is that I want to put the rhubarb into a straining bag and then squeeze out as much juice as possible out of those rhubarbs before putting them in the big pot. So let's get that process started. Okay, it's a small load, but we'll start with that. And yes, by the way, my hands were thoroughly cleaned before doing this, which they're going to need to be, because you're going to have to squeeze this fairly tightly. Get as much of that rhubarb goodness out of this bag as possible. All right. And let's get another batch going. All right, I think that's pretty much all that I'm going to get out of these rhubarbs. Okay, so that just leaves us with our very sweetened rhubarb juice. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to put this in a 4-cup measuring cup because I want to see basically how much liquid I've got to subtract from our 1 gallon of water. And that's coming in at 4 cups there. So we'll figure 5 cups just to be on the safe side. I've poured off 5 cups of our water to make room for the juice. And what I want to do now is just pour in, I don't know, roughly half a cup or so. It's no need to be precise, for our tannin substitute mixture. And we'll pour the rest of our water in the pot. What I want to do now is turn the stove on to a simmer. We want to simmer our black tea, which is again acting as our tannin substitute. And we want to turn the heat on high to bring our water to a boil. With our water now at a boil, let's go ahead and turn off the stove. Let's drop in our strawberries. And again, the reason why we're putting our strawberries in boiling water is to kill off any stray yeast or wild yeast that might have been on the berries, and also to some degree kill off any bacteria that might also be there as well. Since we're not using Camden tablets, this is the alternative. And while we're at it, let's take our rhubarb sweetened juice. Let's go ahead and add that to the mix. Let's go ahead and put our cover back on. Let's take a look at our tannin substitute. And that appears to be about ready. So that being the case, let's go ahead and add our tannin substitute to the mix. And then put our cover on and let that come down to room temperature. With our mixture now cooled down to room temperature, we want to go ahead and begin the process of moving it from the pot to the fermenter. My hands have been freshly cleaned. So let's begin the process of, if I can do this without spilling it everywhere, taking our straining bags, and then taking our mixture with our freshly sanitized spoon. Let's go ahead and stir that up a bit. And let's start the process of taking a hydrometer reading. Our hydrometer reading is coming in at 1.068. We're going to give our mixture one more good vigorous stir. Reason for that is that at this point, we want to try and get in a little bit more oxygen into our mixture to help out our yeast. Perfectly fine doing it now, but it is not something you want to do later on. That having been done, we can now add in our 1/4 teaspoon of yeast and see if you can get it to just sprinkle it around without dumping it into one spot. Now, if you want to bloom your yeast, that's perfectly fine, but I've had nothing but success doing it just like that. It's now time to label our creation. We are making strawberry rhubarb wine. We started it on this date, and our original gravity reading was 1.068. Now, once a day for the next 3 days, you want to come in and give that must a good vigorous stir to help with the oxygen for the yeast, and also just to circulate everything around that fruit we've got put in there. And then after that, just leave it alone. After a total of 5 or 6 days, you can then go ahead and rack this into your secondary carboy and start the process of bulk aging at that point in time. After about anywhere from 6 months to a year, depending on how clear you want your wine, how many rackings you do, you can go ahead and start enjoying your strawberry rhubarb wine. All operations that follow this step here, primary, you can find in the winemaking operations playlist, which is located on the channel page under playlist. Okay, it's now been 12 months later. It's now time to try out our strawberry rhubarb wine. Because the first part of this video lasted so long, I'll try and make this one kind of quick. The wine was slightly hazy. I'll put it to you that way. It's not totally clear. Let's see, born 10/20/21. ABV came in at 10.24%, and of course, as normally, it's been pasteurized. Strawberry rhubarb wine. Never had a rhubarb before, so I wasn't going to really take a chance on making just a rhubarb wine. I thought I'd pair it with something that I at least had a baseline reference to, and that was the strawberries. Hence the strawberry rhubarb component. Anyhow, let's go ahead and crack this one open. Yes, it's been degassed. Yes, it's also been back sweetened. As with all of my wines and meads, I generally tend to let them go dry and then back sweeten them to my taste later on. When you're doing your own wines, you can back sweeten them to anything you prefer, or if you want to try and time it right, you can stop fermentation at any point in time and hopefully rely on residual sweetness. But I don't do all that because it just takes too much time and effort. Let it go dry, back sweeten it later, call it a day. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and pour that first glass. This was actually bottled yesterday, so it doesn't have a lot of time to bottle rest, as it were. Taking that into account, it smells sweet, and you can smell the strawberries. Again, since I never had a rhubarb before, I think what I should have done was actually tasted what a rhubarb tasted like first. Then I can say, well, I can taste this much of the strawberries and I can taste this much of the rhubarb, but all things being what they may, it doesn't really matter if it doesn't taste good. This actually tastes good. I like the strawberry component. You can actually, because I didn't back sweeten it all that much, the strawberries has their own natural tartness to it, which comes through. It's not overpowering. It doesn't really overpower the rhubarb. I think there was a nice balance there. It does have a certain degree of dryness on the back end. Gives you a dry mouth feeling. I don't know if it's not bad. Because of that dry note, this would probably, if I was pairing it with a food, would probably go good with fish, even though it's not a white wine per se. More of a kind of white wine-ish. not quite a rosé, not quite a white wine, somewhere in between. 12 months, I probably would say give this one a few more months of aging. I think I remember some advice given by the, God, I can't recall his name, over at the Happy Homestead channel when he made his, and he made the recommendation when he saw that I was making it to give it 16 months. Yeah, this is probably a 16-month wine. Cut down a little bit on that edginess on the back end. But apart from that, the remaining 4 bottles that I've got of this, I don't see any of those going down the drain, no matter how badly I need the bottles for something else. No, this will be around. I don't think I'll do a 16-month tasting, but I will keep it for another 16 months. And probably in the comment section, I'll probably throw in a note saying at 16 months, the flavor profile changed to such and such a degree. Yeah, a few more months, this will be ready. So again, whenever you see me doing these little long pauses, it's because I've got both windows open in my office, and this time of day, traffic is moving through. I usually edit that out, at least the sound portion of it. So if you see me like pausing for a few seconds, where I'm giving the impression that I'm kind of making a mental observation as to what it is that I'm doing, no, I'm waiting for traffic to pass. That's all I'm really doing there. So again, if you like what you see here, please click on that subscribe and notify button. If you really like it, click on that favorites button, make a small donation, become a member, become a Patreon, help support this channel. Until the next video, I'll see you.